Don in London. Hello, May 24th. My video's all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour, and what happens next, of course. My addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour equally addictive around people, places and things. So these days, not trying to be perfect, not trying to be thinking my way into being with the right people, in the right place, doing the right things, or having the right things. Just about living life. That's what it is. It's about living life with a sober head. And if I have a sober head, I can then address the problems which cause me awkwardness, difficulty, and finally dependency beyond measure on one substance, alcohol. So from being a 24/7 drinker, which nearly killed me more than once, sometimes I have to remind myself that's as bad as it got, to a few years into recovery, one day at a time. So what helped me along the way? Well, kind people who realised, most likely, that where I'd got to was beyond my control. I was out of control, trying still desperately to stop drinking by self-will. Self-will will fail, I found, because once we are dependent and addicted, we're fighting against something we have no control over. That's an emotional, physical and spiritual need and want, an addiction to alcohol. So, excuse me, my life, it went down the toilet basically, and now it's not. I'm very lucky. And what helped me to get into sobriety? Well, family, friends, community, medical people, and a final understanding that life could get no worse. No matter what I did next, all I wanted to do was go to sleep and not wake up. So then, having been alive long enough to get to that point, which is very lucky because a lot of people don't make it that far, I found the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't know whether I found it or it found me or people suggested it, but I do remember my sister many years ago putting me in a car, driving me to a meeting of AA close by to where I live now, pushing me through the doors and saying, go in there and sort yourself out. And that was her desperation. I did go in, I did listen. I put my hand up when they said, is there anybody new? And I said, yes, I'm Don, I'm an alcoholic. But it didn't make any sense to me, and it was another 5 years before I went to my next meeting. So 5 years of struggle, 5 years of self-will going wrong, 5 years of trying to be what I thought I ought to be, and because I didn't know what I ought to be, always desperately sad, lonely, isolated, frightened of every connection that I'd had in the past, and then trying to get well. And then the moment of clarity several years later, and time to understand I can't do this on my own, I need help. And that was the realization. I needed help, and even today I realise I need help on a daily basis to keep me on track, to be sober. And again, family, friends and medical people, community, you name it, all keep me on track, as long as I'm listening to what is going on around me, and I don't try and work it all out on my own. I am interdependent on everybody and everything. So no longer in isolation trying to work it all out, and now into openness, honesty and willingness to keep on learning life. So my first 90 days were absolutely desperate. I tried to get to as many meetings of the Fellowship of AA as possible, where I found out it was okay to be me and not know anything. And it's okay to be me and still not know anything, but just simply know a bit more about who I am by the end of the day. So for me, it's all about learning. And there is no problem with learning. I don't have to be the big I am, I know everything. I'm more happy not knowing anything and saying I don't know. But I can find out, and if I can't find out, I still won't know, and it's okay. So some things will be beyond me, some things will be okay for me to learn and do, and I go with the flow of life. what is going on around me, how I fit in, how I can be included, and how I can relate to life and live a life, the life I have. Reality, sober, reality on life's terms, life as it is. So how does AA help me? Well, first it taught me I am unique and authentic, but I have one similarity with other people who are in addiction, hopefully a desire to stay sober and share the message. So that's why I do these videos. I don't speak for AA, never can, never will, but I do share how AA helps me on a daily basis with a 12-step program and much more besides. So what is AA? I always share the AA Preamble on this little card, and I read it out simply because if I read it out, it means more than reciting it. So I guess I could recite it because I've heard it so many times, but every time I hear it I try and listen to the words because they're important. It lays out what it's all about. So here we go. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So, the only requirement is a desire to stop drinking. And genuinely, I think most people who are addicted, once they realise the malady they're in, want a way out. Because drinking doesn't work. The addictions don't work in the end. They don't fix anything. And I tried to fix myself over and over again all the time, fixing myself to feel right, rather than actually feeling right about living life. So there's a big difference for me. And this thing of AA not being allied to anything, the good news is you can be allied to anything. You can be part of another institution, part of a faith, part of an understanding, have political views. You keep all of that. But that's not AA. AA is about sobriety. So you may share about your difficulties or your successes in the program, and we listen. But we listen for the wisdom of what's working because of sobriety and the path taken. So we may learn something which is useful to us. And often it's in the hardships of life that people express what it's like and what they're doing about it. And the most basic of all human things, if we can ever get back to it, is to share how we truly feel about our situation, knowing our emotional state today. So sometimes during a day we are happy or sad, angry, resentful, or just simply serene, that life is going along pretty well and we're learning lots and we're enjoying it. So if our feelings fit the experience we're having, that is, the feelings we have today fit the experience, and it's not wishful thinking about the future or feeling it ought to be better in the future, we're not living in the present moment. And if we are consumed with what happened to us, which is where I was when I first came to AA or to the fellowship, I was consumed by hurt and pain from years and years of trying to be whatever I thought I ought to be, and then suddenly understanding that it was okay to start again. By letting go of the past, I could start again and have room to grow into new living. And that's not a quick process, and it wasn't for me. It took time to let go of the horror that I lived in order that I could start to live either new horror, because life can be horrible sometimes, or just simply new life which is much more happy. So again, I emphasize, every feeling we have about life is genuine, but sometimes they are exaggerated by our past experience. So we say to ourselves, here we go again, and then we get into a trap of spinning around the same old stuff, rather than saying, hold on a minute, let's try and do something new. So I have a better, well, my attitude changes to what is going on around me. It's just happening today, in this one day, and then I can behave accordingly. So that when I'm angry or sad or upset, I can always go to a meeting of AA and share what's going on. And the 12-step program, well, we learn about the steps, the whole package, if you like, fairly quickly. We understand there are 12 steps to live life, and if we're sober, the rest of life can happen as it may, and we get choices to say yes to things and no to things, and some things we just can't change at all. And these are the things we learn. What's okay to say yes to, because it fits in with where we are and what we need to do, and things we need to say no to. And it can be simply, when we say no, simply we just don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. And I can remember, in one career where there was an enormous project to do, and we needed one person to head it up, and they said no, I don't feel like it. And then we found out why. Simply, it meant that they would be taken away from family, friends, and what's important to them for large periods of time. And they simply just did not want to do that. It was too much of a burden to place on one person's shoulders. So it ended up on 5 people's shoulders. One of mine, and 4 other people. But I learned a big lesson, and I just didn't understand it was okay to say no. So one of the big things in my life is I say yes to things which are good for me and no to things which are bad for me. So my whole life has changed, my whole orientation to what is good for me and what is not good for me. And when I don't know, I ask for help from friends, family, community, anybody who might have a better perspective than me. And often those people are in AA who have the same wisdom, learned how to say no and yes to the right things for each person, not as a group, because AA is a broad church. We meet around one subject, that's how to be sober, not what people do in the rest of their lives. And that's the greatest gift. That's why it's not a cult, it's not something you join and then can't let go of. You can come and go as you please. There are no rules or laws in AA, and if anybody tells you different, then they are on the wrong path. They are saying fellowship is more than it is. So, I am so pleased I am part of something which is not trying to mould me into a particular shape or a particular way of looking at the world. It's asking me to look at the world, see how I fit in, and play my part in it. Not play it, not act it. I guess live my part in the world as best I can. And when I can't get to meetings, books like this, the Daily Reflections, help me enormously, because they cover the 12 steps gradually over a year. So May is all about step 5, where we admit to a higher power, or God, as some people call the higher power, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. And those come out of our life story, which we did in step 4, and I covered in April on these videos. So life gets better. But we can't predict life, and we can't predict what's going to happen today. But if we have an open mind, stick with honesty and willingness to keep on learning how we have our life to live and how it fits in, and live reality. So it's not about being indoctrinated into a particular way of life other than being sober. So we keep our views, our values, and we do as we feel is right for us, hopefully. But then people talk about obligations, responsibilities, and of course we do have those, depending on whatever else we're doing with our lives. Sometimes we continue with a path which is absolutely right, and sometimes we change and move in a different direction. And that's the greatest gift, to be me, to be you. So for May 24th in the Daily Reflections book, it says happy, joyous and free. We are sure, and it talks about God in here, so if you believe in God, that's good. If you're not sure about God, or you're an atheist or an agnostic, it could be a power greater than us, it could be our good conscience. Whatever floats your boat is what counts. rather than sink it into an ocean of alcohol. So we are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous and free, and I think that's what nature and providence is all about. After all, we are here to live life, and I guess be happy as life can be happy, or sad as life is sad. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a vale of tears, though it once was just for many of us. But it is clear that we made our own misery, and we did, because we kept on doing something which was harming our outlook and not allowing us to see reality as it was. God didn't do it, and then the deliberate manufacture of misery. But if trouble comes, cheerfully capitalise it as an opportunity to demonstrate his omnipotence, or rather a challenge, I guess, to good conscience and not taking our woes out on the rest of the world. For years I believed in a punishing God and blamed him for my misery. I have learned that I must lay down the weapons of self in order to pick up the tools of the AA program. I do not struggle with the program because it's a gift, that I have never struggled when receiving a gift. If I sometimes keep on struggling, it's because I'm still hanging on to my old ideas, and the results are nil. And sometimes I did hang on to ideas. I can remember when I first got unwell, it was a combination of, I guess, what happened to me? A next career, travelling up the ladder to the echelons of isolated thinking. The higher up we go in organisations, sometimes we've got no one to talk to, or we can get so far out on a limb that we fall off the mountain, and that's partly what I did. But I actually was always trying to be perfect and do more to make life work for organisations and people within. As a result of that, I lost the plot, and I thought I knew better, a better way forward, which, funnily enough, was about being open, honest and willing. But I was working in a compliance finance environment where open, honest and willing don't actually fit, and certainly integrity is questionable. Yeah, transparency is suggested, lies often abound. People hiding behind legal jargon and not answering the telephone. Just a little observation by me. So anyway, the upshot of that, I worked myself into the ground, had a nervous breakdown, and ironically I didn't drink at that time. It didn't seem to be appropriate. I just wanted to find a way to get well again. And then starting up on my own, and all the pressures and the, I suppose, denial in me about just how damaged I was as a human, emotionally, spiritually and physically. And then drinking happened 1 or 2 years later in a big way. So all my life I was a very happy social drinker, and a very happy drinker to oblivion, in the sense that got me to sleep so I could get up the next day and work harder at life, but especially at career. That's all I had left in the end. And I've actually reverted back to doing things which I like doing, because I can, and I live modestly rather than extravagantly as if I was ruling the world, because I wasn't. I was deluded. Anyway, and it's appropriate in this book, as Bill sees it, which I often refer to. On page 267 it says, behind our excuses. As excuse makers and rationalisers, we drunks are champions. If you had a life like mine, you'd drink. It is the business of the psychiatrist to find deeper causes for our conduct, and I've had help from psychiatrists over the years. Sometimes psychiatrists know clinical conditions better than we do, but we know our lives as we do, and we are experts in our lives once everything is revealed, or more is revealed as the days go by. It is excuse me. It is the business of the psychiatrist to find the deeper causes for our conduct. Though uninstructed in psychiatry, we can, after a little time in AA, see our motives have not been what we thought they were, and that we have been motivated by forces previously unknown to us. Therefore we ought to look with the deepest respect, interest and profit upon the example set us by psychiatry. which is how to understand our own situation and how to understand the situations of other people who are trying to get well and be sober. And it goes on to say, spiritual growth through the practice of AA's 12 steps, plus the aid of a good sponsor, can usually reveal the deeper reasons for our character defects, at least to a degree that meets our practical needs. So as amateurs, not professionals, we unearth so much about where we came from, what happened and why, that we can then put the 12-step program into practical use. And it's the practice of the 12 steps as a process which helps us be our unique, authentic selves, and we emerge as more sober, rational, but emotionally and spiritually able to understand life. Nevertheless, we should be grateful that our friends in psychiatry have so strongly emphasized the necessity to search for false and often unconscious motivations. So the whole process of denial we go through in our drinking days, which is when something is unacceptable to us, we tend to deny it or suppress it. And as we suppress our feelings, they build up inside us in some way. Often I would be angry and resentful about a situation, and the way I let it go was to fix myself with a drink, take the edge off, and in the end it just took the edge off me completely. And I then found myself in ignorance of what was going on. So ignorance of what is going on meant that I wasn't learning how to deal and cope with what I had become. It took time, and often we're impatient to get well because we want to prove and demonstrate to the rest of the world we're fine and we're alright with life. But truthfully, I found that I'm not fine half the time, but I am the other half, or the balance is as life kicks up stuff for me. So recovery afforded me the luxury of living long enough to have type 1 diabetes, and recovery and being sober helped me understand why I have clinical depression, which doesn't mean I'm under the bedclothes and shut off and isolated all of the time, but that can happen if I don't take account of what is going on and seek professional advice when I need to. And the same applies to type 1 diabetes and all the complications which come with that. And I have to be careful. It's been a busy few days, doing a bit of physical work as best I can and not taking enough time out to check what's happening to my body through pain, emotionally and spiritually. The emotional of being thrilled to be invited to a party and get there, which rather than not turn up, which is what used to happen, and to be able to cope with what I can and cannot do, to see some of the people and chat to them, but not chat to everybody I know, because there isn't time to do it, and then sometimes I feel like I've missed out and I want to say more to people. But if you've got a lot of friends, it can't always be that easy, and that's one of the things which I'd lost in the past. I came to a place of no friends at all, and now friends who I care about in abundance, and people in fellowship I care about in abundance. All these are new things as the recovery goes along, to the point where life is so busy we can lose our sense of identity again. And yesterday was a good day, helping somebody or trying to help someone as they explained what they were doing with their lives, a particular idea, and being able to be supportive and see if I had anything to add or suggest or just help by being a sounding board. That's how it all works, that we're not trying to impose our views and our opinions and our judgments on other people, that we're just trying to find out what is working for us and go as far as we can. But so my emotional, mental and thinking capacities have been challenged, and I need to be careful It's one of those things, if one goes too far for too long, the downtime needed to recover for a person like me can be quite long. So I feel a bit shattered by it all. And that's all right, because I'd say, how am I feeling? Tired, shattered, not on top form. But at the same time, it's okay. I don't have to pretend anymore. And I do have off days. Somebody said recently, you often smile a lot. And yes, because life is as busy as it can be. It's not me smiling to hide the pain. Sometimes the pain is acute, and I come home and I don't smile, or I just wait and be patient till a better day occurs. That's life, isn't it? I guess. So these 12 steps, and open, honest and willing, humility to keep on learning. And something else about the 12 traditions of AA, about what those traditions are, to hold the fellowship together around unity, service and recovery. There is nothing in AA which is a rule or a law. And often people use the word violate our traditions or our steps. You can't do that. It doesn't work. There is nothing to violate. You cannot violate a suggestion, and you can't make a newcomer into an image of yourself. That's the way it is. And if you do try that, a newcomer will learn very quickly to avoid you, because nobody wants a zealot in fellowship, because it doesn't work. The zealotry or a particular doctrine is not AA. 12 steps to work on as an individual, to live life well, and follow whatever it is that you're affiliated to in life. And 12 traditions all about fellowship being a place to get sober, where nobody rules, nobody's in charge, the group decides, or meetings decide, and we only have trusted servants, and there are no complaints to make other than where you are in that one day. So if you don't like something in the program or a meeting, you can say so, and the more you say it, the more people will be able to listen and understand either what they are doing or you are doing, and that's okay. But we can't make people do things, because I guess rebellion is one of the underlying traits of any good practicing alcoholic, because they can't be told, and I couldn't be told. And it's a moment of clarity if we get freedom to choose to live reality again. And we're lucky if we do get that, because the nature of addiction is to kill us. It nearly killed me more than once. But the good news is, for me, I'm still here. It might be bad news for you, but it's good news for me. And no matter what happens, be true to yourself. To thine own self be true. The Serenity Prayer, which helps me any time of day, in any moment. Can do, can't do. Wisdom to know the difference. It's meditation for some. It's an appeal or exhortation to good conscience. Or it is asking God, as you understand personally, your personal understanding of God, which is unique and authentic to you. But God generally means, let's live to the truth, let's be able to love and be loved back, and keep on learning the wisdom of other people. And that suits me fine. But it won't suit everybody, or anybody for that matter. It's what you choose for yourself. So when people say, oh my God, I think, as long as they have their own understanding of a God, no God, or atheist or agnostic, at least they maybe have a good conscience. So oh my God is a very good way to look at it. So OMG, or to God in good conscience. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me always in the moment and just for today. DonInLondon, hello, May 24th, 2009, bright sunny Sunday morning here, and just after 9 o'clock in the morning. my videos all about recovery from addiction to substances or behaviour. My substance, alcohol, and I guess any other sort of food over the years. Compulsive eater sometimes, and my behaviour, trying to be perfect and never so. So where am I today? I've been awake for a couple of hours. Sun is streaming through, and it's quiet and calm here in London, UK, Chelsea. So life feels okay just in the moment of now. But I went out yesterday, went to a good meeting of the Fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and then met up with some friends in a different part of London, near to Portobello Market. And I've never really actually walked through Portobello Market on a Saturday. So I took lots of photos of thousands of people enjoying the entertainment of being in a market which is bustling and alive. And the difference these days is I can see the people alive rather than just people walking by. And I think I'm also, or feel I am also, a people watcher. I love to see what's going on with people and maybe what's behind the mask that they're wearing on their faces. And often we can get that with a candid photo shot. So I've got a lot of those which I've just posted up on my photo site, a link to the right. Anyway, this is all about recovery, and actually, you know, having a good day where things have gone okay, and meeting up with people in a social way, not in a meeting of AA, is rather nice, and to celebrate somebody having 2 years sobriety. Fantastic. You know, one day at a time is the key. And when we get to these milestones, in the first year we can always have chips at a month, or just for today chip, which is the silver one, 24 hours a day. And then different variety of colours all the way up to 12 months. And then when we get to 12 months we have to wait a year for the next one. But we don't wait, we live life. And that life speeds up. So over the past few years my life has speeded up rather a lot by doing less and doing things which are good for me rather than doing things which hurt and harm me and make other people very worried about my welfare. So being in sobriety a little while is good for me, and life is about routine and patterns which help us deal with the unexpected. So AA, the Fellowship, Alcoholics Anonymous, has been there, and it's been a keystone in the arch of my sobriety. Now there's a bit of poetry for you. Anyway, what do I want to say here today? Well, I go to AA meetings. We all go to AA meetings if we need to, because we're alcoholic, or we go to a different type of meeting or a different type of professional help or support to find a way back to being sober one day at a time, I guess. And we all make a choice. We are all unique, authentic people, especially in Fellowship, which is why I cannot speak for the Fellowship of AA, nor the people in it, because they all have their voice, and that's paramount to me. So I don't speak for AA. A lot of people believe that anonymity is the spiritual foundation. I believe that anonymity provides sanctuary, so we can get to a spiritual living place, which is living in the day with as less denial and filter being put in between us and reality. So somebody asked, what's a filter? Mainly the filters I have are other people saying you're alright when you're not alright, and listening to that rather than saying, hang on, I'm not alright, I need to talk about it. All sorts of filters. We can fix ourselves, we can smoke, eat biscuits, drink lemonade, do anything which filters and satisfies that feeling of emptiness, rather than going and finding out what the emptiness is all about. Because every person needs empty space in order to fill on a daily basis with good things, not necessarily bad things, or just harmonious things which keep us going, like conscious contact with other people. And as I understand it, God works through people. God is truth, God is love. So very simple for me, and we are all part of it, no one bigger or smaller than anyone else. Just a bit of my philosophy this morning, but more about AA now, and I share literature from the program here in order to illustrate how it helps me on a daily basis. But before I do that, I will say the Serenity Prayer, say the Serenity Prayer at the end. I go through the AA Preamble, which is really sharing what AA does. And it doesn't make you into a clone. It encourages you to be unique and authentic and live life as best you can. So here's the preamble shared at every meeting I go to. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So I guess my message is about sharing how to get to be sober and what works for me. And I think I've covered that a little bit so far. But the daily reflections is a one-page just to start the day off, really. And it says here, May 24th, happy, joyous and free. And don't forget, whenever the word God is used in the literature of AA, it's the God of your understanding, not a collective AA God. Nothing like that. It's what you understand as God or good conscience, or whether you're an atheist, agnostic or whatever. It doesn't matter. If we understand there are powers greater than us who have a bit more of an understanding of how to live life, then we're onto a winner. So, happy, joyous and free. We are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous and free. We cannot subscribe to the belief that this life is a vale of tears, though it once was just that for many of us. But it is clear that we made our own misery. God didn't do it. Avoid then the deliberate manufacture of misery, but if trouble comes, cheerfully capitalise it as an opportunity to demonstrate His omnipotence, or rather good conscience, and whatever your understanding of God could be. And it says further, for years I believed in a punishing God, and blamed Him for my misery. I have learned that I must lay down the weapons of self in order to pick up the tools of the AA program. That's the 12 steps. I do not struggle with the program because it is a gift, and I have never struggled when receiving a gift. If I sometimes keep on struggling, it is because I'm still hanging on to my old ideas, and the results are nil. So my best thinking got me drinking. My best feelings these days, and understanding that I'm part of something, part of the world, family, community, society, a fellowship, keeps me on a better path of understanding and stops me craving and wanting to go back to drinking. And as Bill sees it, you can read as many pages as you like a day just to get to a place of calm. And page 111, I just do these linearly, one page a day, surveying the past. We should make an accurate and really exhaustive survey of our past life as it has affected other people. In many instances we shall find that, though the harm done others has not been great, we have nevertheless done ourselves considerable emotional injury. Then too, damaging emotional conflicts persist below the level of consciousness, very deep, sometimes quite forgotten. Therefore we should try hard to recall and review those past events which originally induced these conflicts and which continue to give our emotions violent twists, thus discolouring our own personalities and altering our lives for the worse. And it goes on to say, we reacted more strongly to frustrations than normal people. By reliving these episodes and discussing them in strict confidence with somebody else, we can reduce their size and therefore their potency in the unconscious. And really, when it's talking about step 4 there, sharing our writing a fearless moral inventory about our assets and liabilities, the number one resentment that we all seem to have is against ourselves, which is why we kept on doing self-harm. And the awfulness in that is a lot of harm was done others, either by our absence or our bad behaviour. So, the step 4, write it all out. And in step 5, which I'm covering this month, May, as there are 12 steps, 12 months, May, all about sharing this with another individual, our best and our worst, our resentments, our anger, where we've held on to things and not let go of things, where we react against those old behaviours which were started very young. So the gift is, if we can do this and then share it with another human being we trust, of your choice, inside or outside the fellowship, we get to a place of maybe serenity in the moment. And as the Serenity Prayer goes, God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Hopefully we just do it one day at a time, so that we don't make it a mountain again. More later.